So we still have a few minutes. Our next one is supposed to start at 10:30. So we're gonna take a minute and bring Trevor and Ricky and Christina and McCrae. Are you still? I know McCrae had a busy day today. Oh, he's still here. The four of you come up, and if any of you have any questions or thoughts for these first four, raise your hand and I'll bring you the mic and you can ask them some questions. Yeah.
Just state if you want to ask the question.
This can go to anyone. I never heard anything about the stampede or the rodeo over here. What the plans are?
With the Sun Bowl?
Okay, whatever. Okay, that sounds like a good
That sounds like a
question.
Yes, so that one is just being transformed into an improved rodeo stadium that is going to be done before this September when the Dixie Sun Bowl, or when the Dixie Rodeo, Dixie Sun Bowl, Dixie Roundup, some different words. The cool thing about it is that it is going to be transformed in a way that is even more of an experience for the crowd. It's going to be smaller, but it's going, what I've been told, and I'm not a rodeo, I wish I had rodeo roots, and I go there every year and I love it, but I don't know all the intricacies, other than I've been told that by the National Rodeo Association, they had a lot of input in the build out of the new one, that will have a much better viewing experience and will be more aligned with how national rodeos happen. And the cool thing is they're doing a concrete floor, so they'll be able to take the dirt out and host other types of events throughout the year, so then the Sun Bowl gets more use. And then the other part of the property will be a pavilion where they'll also be able to host different kinds of events. So it's going to turn into even more of a multi-use type of property. And I grew up there playing football in 7th and 8th grade, so it's cool. It'll be cool to see other types of sporting events. I look forward to playing pickleball in there sometime. So.
Thank you, that's a good question. I hope they still have that place where you can walk around the top for hours like we all did as teenagers.
Hi, great presentation, solidly. Christina, the standard story of people coming down to Dixie often is they're called to go and they don't want to go. You know, what's the story of the guy who says, well, damn it, I guess I'll go? You know. Anyway, it sounds like Edward Bunker wanted to come. Why did he want to come?
I got the. Thank you, that's a great question. Edward Bunker and Dudley Levitt, they very much believed in the principles of the United Order where they shared things in common. And when they first settled Bunkerville, they were like a huge family. They were one family. They built they worked together to build the ditches. They started planting things together. They harvested things together. Every Friday night they would get together and have dances, and they'd have one big long table where everybody would eat together. So they loved the principles of we're all one big family, we all share together, we all work together. They really wanted that. And the reason it started to fizzle out is like you have one person saying, well, they're not carrying their weight, or I'm doing more than this person. So it ended up fizzling out just for those simple reasons, but they still remained very close with one another, even after the order broke up. When the order did break up, they split the shared, they would all contribute to a shared storehouse. So they took 80% of that and they divided it amongst themselves and kept 20% in for like emergency funds basically, or to fall back on. But they were very much of, these principles are right, we want to live by the principles. With the testimony especially that I was able to share with Dudley, he believed everything that Brother Brigham said. So when Brother Brigham said, we want to try this United Order principle, we want to live these biblical principles of sharing everything, they're like, this is it. This, you know, they took it very, very seriously, and they were sad when it just couldn't hold on as long as they were hoping for. And while they did try to do the United Order in Santa Clara and in St. George, It lasted a few years longer in Bunkerville because they were more dedicated to it, I think, and because they started as a smaller community. And like Luella Levitt, she was the wife to Thomas. And she said that she came up to St. George to work on doing fruit shares. And when she got home, she was like surprised that it had officially been canceled with the United Order. But they were so established and so settled already that they continued and they lived. And while Mesquite Flats was settled right before Bunkerville, the flooding was so severe that at one point Mesquite was washed out altogether and it was deserted at one point, and it wasn't until later that they started to rebuild. And Dudley Levitt actually took his family from Bunkerville back over to the Mesquite side because the land was available and his family was so large. And they were trying to call it Levittville for a little while, but Mesquite held like that.
Do you mind if I do 2 sentences? So, just to your question, Zadok Knapp Judd out in Santa Clara, according to an account I read, he actually requested from Brigham Young to move down here because he wanted the heat, and he was a brother-in-law to Jacob Hamblin. So family and warmth, which is honestly why so many people come here. But yeah, I just was surprised because it was the same thing where it was like, oh, this is someone who wants to be here. So yeah, look it up. Zadok Knapp Judd has a journal.
I have a question for Trevor and one for McCrae. Trevor, I think I heard you right. You said there's going to be a southern campus of Utah Tech.
Oh, that was
University.
McCrae, but yeah, there is going to be a southern
Okay,
campus.
so they're both from McCrae. So I had never heard of that. And the other one is, I grew up in Southern California, which had an ideal climate by the ocean, and people moved there until it's become almost unlivable. We love St. George and Washington County, but is there any thought that it will become so popular that it will also turn into another Los Angeles?
My grandpa asks me that all the time, actually. He passed away a few years ago. He actually passed away, let's see, I can't remember the exact year, but this was probably 8 or 9 years ago, was the first time that he was like, we're becoming LA. And I was like, Gramps, we're still a little ways away from that, but I do understand the concern. I think that there's a lot of, there's the similarities of why people are coming, and I do think that, people probably said this in Newport before it became what it is, but I feel like we're 2 different worlds still between here and Southern California, and I just think that the people here I talk to a lot of city planners, I talk to a lot of developers, I talk to a lot of business owners, and the reality is we need to keep growing because of the demand. If we were to shut off the growth for any reason, the people that could afford it would still come here, and then pricing would rise even more, and locals would get priced out even more. And so that's why there has to be, and same with water, right? And I don't want to get like into the weeds on the water, but I just think that the mindset of Southern Utah has a chance to continue to grow without turning into Southern California. Now, as far as the southern campus of Dixie Tech or Utah Tech, right in the video, right next to the CT High School is where there's a 183 acre piece that Utah Tech has control of, and there aren't any set plans of what that will be yet. They're in the ideation phase still, but that is their future growth for their campus, because as we know, Utah Tech continues to grow, and they've done a lot of renovation and a lot of addition to the current campus, but do think that there's a lot of potential that can happen down on that southern corridor. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing.
Time for one more?
Thank you. Hi, Christina. Thank you for your presentation. My name is Tim Brooks, and I've got some relatives through the Bunkerville line, but I think it's very, very interesting, and maybe some of you already know this, that Edward Bunker in 1856 led a handcart company across the plains, and in that company was a couple named Samuel and Emma Blindstone Brooks. One of their sons, who was orphaned on the day he arrived in the Salt Lake Valley in October of 1856, was named George Brooks. And George married Emily Brooks, and they had children, one of whom was Will, and Will married Juanita.
Thank you.
So it's just a wonderful mix of the Bunkers and the Brookses. So wonderful.
I just wanted to tell the musician, my husband and I went on a mission down here to St. George, and when you were doing the presentation, I felt it. I really did feel the inspiration. I felt it inspired, so I just wanted to thank you for that.